Have you ever struggled with the authority, dominion, powers working, and then suddenly it stops working? Have you ever even gotten to the point that it was working and then it stopped, or it's never worked for you? We have to walk this out, assuming that God's going to work with us, that He is our God and He wants to work with us. And so when we struggle with when it's not working, the miracles aren't showing up, that is a struggle. And it is something I want to talk to about tonight because it's probably the second most often asked question I get. Why is it not working? Why did it stop? Why hasn't it started working? Why don't I see the results? And the first time that this really popped up was when I had a guy call me, and his dad is the main pastor of a big mega church. And he is one of the prayer warriors, the prayer leaders in that church every week. You pray for the people, they get healed, they go back to their pews. And some of them are always pulled up on stage and get to witness to what's going on. And he was one of the major prayer people there. And apparently it had stopped working. And so he called me and he asked me, why isn't it working? Now, part of the reason he called me was because I am fairly prophetic. I do a lot of prophecy teaching on how to prophesy, how to see what's going on. And so he called me. And so I said, I can look, and I look, I'll see. So just asking permission. He said, oh, yeah. So I looked and I said, dude, you're with a blonde. It's not your wife. I'm not your wife. And that's not her. And he said, so? That's not what I asked you about. I asked you about why it's not working. I flipped out. I said, I can't do that. It's Peter 3:7. You have to honor your wife or your prayers will be hindered. That's like real basic. He says, where's that in? I said, Peter 3:7. Your prayers will be hindered if you do not show honor to your wife. And he was like, just dumbfounded. I didn't know that was in there. I assume since you're a pastor's kid and you're a prayer minister that you know this. Apparently he did not. I had kind of the same conversation where he was calling me and he basically, his prayer life had died. He didn't know why. He'd been through a messy divorce. He didn't know why his prayer life wasn't going. And I said, tell me about your relationship with your ex-wife. That he named off some things that were really nice. And I said, we know what the Bible says about divorce, right? Yeah, I know what the Bible says about divorce. It said, in God's eyes, you're still married. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but you are. You still have to show her up. You have to honor her so that your prayers will not be hindered. That's a tough thing for a lot of people. Wives, sorry, it only applies to husbands in this scripture. This is real basic. If you don't honor your wife, and in his case, ex-wife, your prayers will be hindered. We look at some of the other hindrances to prayer, and we see James 1:6, but when you ask, you must believe, you must not doubt, because one who doubts is like a wave of the sea, blown and tossed by the wind. If you don't know whether you should get it, you're not sure if it's a good prayer, living a life that is giving you doubts about who you are and what you are, you don't have real strong faith to receive it. Then we have the Hebrews 11:6, and without faith it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. So these are all tough verses that we have to decide what we're going to believe, what we're going to do. And so I want to use a real life example here of what is a comparison. I used to play video games, still dabble every once in a while, but I never did very well with video games. And my son was telling me why I wasn't doing very well with this particular video game, because I didn't have the cheat codes. What's a cheat code? Cheat code is something that you do during the game that gives you extra advantages, extra cash, extra bodies, or extra health. Something in the game that helps you walk in the game with more power, more authority. And so Jesus gave us, in comparison to that, a lot of cheat codes. And most of them are found in John 13 through 17. And this is just really powerful chapters that just, there's so much in there. Jesus was telling the disciples everything in those chapters. Verse 3 of 13, right before he washed his feet, Jesus knowing all that would happen, he then told them, after he sent Judas away, he told them all what was going to happen. And then he said in 16, verse 1, he told them all these things so that they would not get stuck, trapped, or offended, is that word there. The word scandalon is what's translated right there. And that word is actually the center of the trap where you set off the track. So if you stepped on that or grabbed that or you hooked in there, you were trapped, you were offended, and your offense holds you in the trap. So he tells them all these things so they would not get stuck. So we have so many key verses in this section that just tell you, but I want to focus in on two. And the first one is in John 15, where he talks about you being a branch and the Father being the vine. And we're talking about grapevines here. So on a grapevine, you have the trunk coming out of the branch. Those runners come off the side. That'll be what we see wired up in current vineyards right now. They will wire those branches out. And those are still considered part of the vine. And then the branch that hangs down bears the fruit. That's what he's talking about. In verse 2, it says that any branch that comes down off the vine that does not bear fruit, he will take away. Or a lot of us are like, am I bearing fruit? And you have to take a look at your life there, whether or not you are providing fruit. Have you witnessed to people? Have you prayed for them? Have you seen healings? Have you prophesied to them? Have you taught them about Jesus? Have you converted anybody? And so that's something that you have to decide for yourself. But that verse continues and says, every branch that beareth fruit, he purges, that it may bring forth more fruit. Then in verse 3, he tells his disciples, now you are clean through the word, which I have spoken unto you. So he purges the branches. He's saying, I purged you with the words I've spoken to you. And so he is purging them with this. He washed them with the word. Now, this goes on and talks more about the vineyard illustration. When you abide in me and I abide in you, As a branch cannot bear fruit of itself except to abide in the vine, no more can you bear fruit except that you stay and abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. He that abides in me, in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. Without me, you can do nothing. We go on in 6 and 7. These are key. If a man abides not in me, he's cast forth as a branch. It withers. They're gathered and cast in the fire, and they're burned. However, verse 7, if you abide in me, and my words abide in you, you shall ask what you will, and it shall be done unto you. So the qualification here is that you ask, and it'll be done for you as long as you're abiding in. So abiding, what is abiding? Abiding is being connected. It is spending that time together. Where most people fall down is that they do not think of God as a connection. It's more of a, almost like a rich uncle. Hey, I need help with this. I need this. I need that. I hurt here. This person hurts here. And we treat him like a rich uncle or Santa Claus. But that's not what is going on. Jesus said that I call you friends. So what's your relationship with your friends? You know, when you are a friend and you're abiding with them, I've had friends that I hang out, and it's like, even if it's been a few months, it's like instant rapport. We'll go back and it's like we almost didn't leave. And then I have other friends that I may not see for a year or two. And with them, it's a lot colder. It's a lot harder to get together. Then I have some people that I wouldn't mind being friends with. Why they're difficult to talk to. They're rough. It's like, I'll spend a half hour trying to talk to them, and I'm just not getting anything that, I don't know if it's something they think about me. I don't know if it's something that, I don't know what it is. Can't work about what it is. It's just that is what is the situation. There's just no connection there. And abiding as friends, if you look at abiding as friends, are you connected with the person? Are you walking with that person? Are you connecting with them? Are you both listening to each other? Or are you just waiting for them to stop speaking before you speak? We want to get into that position that we are friends with God and we're abiding with him. So what's the easiest way to abide with him? If you're only talking to him on Sunday mornings or Wednesday nights, you're not really being friends, and you're talking at him. You're worshiping him, talking at him. You're listening to somebody else talk about him, but you're not really connecting. And so if you want to start seeing what you asked to happen, you need to be in that connection. Best way to start out, 15 minutes a day. You can set aside somewhere in your day, 15 minutes where you are always available. Maybe the last 15 minutes of your day. Go to sleep, go sit, let you start talking with him, listening to him, abiding in him. He wants to be a friend. He was friends with Abraham, says in the Old Testament. He was friends with Moses in the Old Testament. He was friends with Enoch in the Old Testament. Jesus said he was friends with the disciples. You have to choose whether or not you're going to abide in him and walk in him. But if you're not seeing results, this is a great place to start. Other place to start would be is if you're in an active sin. Your life is a mess. you're actively sinning, that's going to stop you from receiving from it. That's pretty basic stuff. Just can't be in sin and get and live in the life of the world and the devil, and then trying to talk to God and be connected to Him. Now, if you aren't saved, then yes, you want to get saved, baptized, but then let's start walking in the miracles of life. Get connected with Him. Get in that relationship of friendship with Him, and start walking this out.